Thank you very much, David. And good morning. Nice to see you this morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
Yes. How are you?
As Adongo said, it could have been better.
You could have been better.
Yes.
Clearly.
Because of our expectations from the budget.
Okay.
So I wouldn't be very buoyant with my responses because it didn't come as good.
No.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So first, let me start with your brief assessment of what you heard. If we were to describe this budget in a few words, what would you say?
In a few words, I'll say this budget is designed for the IMF.
Okay.
Targeted at the IMF and meant to woo the IMF to speed up what it has to do.
Okay.
It doesn't have the kind of financial engineering you would expect to see a much more stable, sustainable economic development that would take us out of the state in which we are right now. So for me, if you ask me, I'll say it is below par.
Below par?
Yeah.
Below par. And you said you said it is targeted at the IMF.
Yes.
What makes you say so?
Yes. In fact, I was looking at the tax exemptions. Okay. Before we went into the conversation, right? Before I continue, let me greet the people of Ghana. Good morning, Ghana, and I would like also to use the opportunity to acknowledge today being the day for the state burial of our mother, Her Excellency, the former First Lady, Mrs. Teresa Kufuor.
Yes.
I think her burial service is being held today at the State House. And I will use this opportunity to extend my condolences and commiserations to the family and loved ones. Yeah. Great. So, in talking about the budget once again, it is targeted at the IMF.
Okay.
And everything there is in here seemed to be directed at telling the IMF, yes, we are ready to obey, we are ready to kowtow, we are ready to satisfy you, just so you give us the money to be able to do what we have to do. And I would like to focus on the kind of tax reliefs we got.
Okay.
So, for example, if you look at the EV, the electronic vehicle thing.
Okay.
Electronic vehicles, if you look at the state of Ghana and what we're doing right now, I don't know who uses electronic vehicle in this country. Electric vehicle in this country, and more so public transport. Okay. It is a kind of relief targeted at the international community. There is a big conversation around going green, and they need to be seen as making efforts towards carbon footprint reduction here and there, and also in terms of policy that favors manufacturing and where investments in the global community is going. So that kind of tax relief is not for the people of Ghana.
Okay.
Not at all. It was made purely for the for IMF. Talk of agriculture, talk of health, talk of the other things they give. News media are carrying it that the finance minister or the budget is carrying 8 tax reliefs. But when you look at the breakdown of the 8 tax reliefs, it offers Ghanaians nothing. And as I was saying earlier, if you look at the agric, health, and all the other components of the tax relief, it is purely the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals. So it doesn't really offer anything to the people of Ghana. Let's take the issue of locally manufactured sanitary pads, for example. What proportion, I heard you having that extensive conversation with Nancy, what proportion of sanitary pads is locally manufactured? That's one side. Now, if we talk of even what or how much the Ghanaian benefits, you would realize that locally manufactured product, when you give that kind of tax break, other factors of production within the country will not favor the manufacturer to give the price reductions we expect to impact lives. Okay. So that chicken feet you throw into the people, it amounts to nothing. It doesn't change anybody's life. Yeah. So this budget is not for the people of Ghana. It doesn't benefit us in any way. It is targeted at telling the IMF we are obeying just so we go through the process. Yeah.
So everything you see in there, because you're even talking about carbon footprints, and I've heard about issue about climate change.
Yes.
Whenever I hear our president talking about climate change international, I start to laugh. because of somebody who's destroyed our forest cover in the manner in which it has happened. I'm surprised that people are listening to it when it comes to climate change. Anyway, it goes to, so you hear those kind of provisions you hear communication to the international community.
Yes.
Not to the Ghanaian. Not
at all. Because if you look, let's have a proper conversation, a dispassionate one, around all the 8 tax reliefs this budget delivered to us. Okay. And let's ask ourselves, in which ways, are these reliefs going to really benefit people? I just give an example of the EVs. I give an example of the
the agric machinery,
and all of that, and even that of the locally manufactured sanitary pads. How does it benefit us? Because I bet you majority of our ladies who need these pads do not even buy the locally manufactured one in the first place. Fine, it is a very great idea if you want to say, okay, we are looking at promoting local production and all of that, but it has to be done in a swiveling manner. You are on one side of the rod and there's the other side of the rod. They have to regress to the center in a very systematic order. So if you are talking about high taxes on the imported ones and you are talking about 0 taxes on the locally manufactured one, if you put 0 tax on the locally manufactured one and you think it's going to impact people, the factors of production is not just about taxation. There is power, cost of power. There is importation of raw materials. There is importation of, there is labor. There is, in fact, other factors of production. That doesn't favor. So the person may end production and at the end of the day, it's still expensive. So the Ghanaian you think you've given that kind of tax break to doesn't enjoy it. Yeah, so we are nowhere. We've not made any we've not gained any mileage. We haven't made any steps forward. Normally we say we do 2 steps forward, 1 step backward. We haven't made a 2-step forward at all in this budget. Yeah.
Nothing at all in there gives you the indication that we are going somewhere.
No. Because you see, after listening to the budget reading yesterday, I just said Oforiatta is running a ceteris paribus economy. A ceteris paribus economy in a sense that for those who are very literate in economics, ceteris paribus is holding other things constant. And in econometrics, the mathematics of economics, when you take the variables and you are trying to make a statement and then you say holding all other constants or all other variables constant, I am making this statement. What it means is that once those variables no longer become a constant, your statement you are making does not hold and abide. That's it. It does not hold and abide. It introduces a certain weakness in your assumptions. And in order to overcome that weakness, what we do is that we hold all other variables constant. Why am I saying Oforiatta is running a ceteris paribus economy? He has decided to say, look, I can't manage this economy anymore. And I'm going to bring in an advisor who is coming to help me do. Now, in order for me to turn around from where I am right now, the best thing for me to do is to hold certain things constant, is to stop doing certain things. In the equation of economics, you're supposed to be servicing your debt. You're supposed to be doing all other things, running concurrently and simultaneously. He couldn't manage this economy without holding certain aspects of that economy constant. So he's running a ceteris paribus economy. Because look, the struggles we are having on the international market right now is because we have chosen to say, look here, we are unable to service our debt. We are bankrupt, and therefore we need you to give us a new restructuring plan where you can waive off 40% of the debt. We are running an economy where we can only make movements in the direction of managing the economy only if we can ask people within the country that the money you gave me to work with and give you interest, 1, I am not giving you the interest, and 2, I am slashing how much money you gave me. That is the only circumstance under which I can continue managing the economy. Holding the fact that I am freezing payments on debts, and that is like holding a certain variable in the econometric formula as a constant. It's a ceteris paribus economy, and that is not sustainable. So we were expecting that reading this budget, we should be having certain aspects of the budget that give us indications of sustainable means of turning around the economy. Okay. Look at how much we designated to capital expenditure, 4%.
Okay.
So the total of expenditure expected for 2024, i.e. 227% approximates, okay? We have only 4% of that amount designated to capital expenditure. But we all know that it is through capital expenditure you are able to increase, call it microeconomics, and inject economic activity back into the system to have a sustainable pathway to development and growth. We don't have that. In our estimation of expenditure, we have 63 billion of expenditure going into salaries, 55 billion going into what? Debt servicing, interest payments. Senna, what is it telling you? The chunk of the money we are going to spend doesn't have anything to do with developing the economy, not at all. So we are where we are. Look at the structure of the economy. Nothing has changed. No indications that this is what we are doing to restructure the economy in order for us to turn back and start moving on the path of sustainable development. So I would say statutory requirements is that the finance minister must come and tell us something with regards to budget, and so he's come to read a budget for us. But it didn't offer anything germane. It didn't offer anything new, anything inspiring, anything that would tell Ghanaians, look here, chest out, square shoulders, this is going to work. Nothing like that. So to actually term it as Nkunim victory budget, in fact, it surprised me. Then I saw a video of the finance ministry staff, as it were, when he arrived. They were celebrating him like Jesus entering Jerusalem, okay? And they were singing Tego Sisters. Was it Tego Sisters? And I'm like, Yedinkuni Yediko. And I'm like, Yedinkuni on what? Victory over what? Does this budget promise anything? Hope? Talk less of victory. So if you ask me, it's very disappointing. And this is not, I keep saying, this is not us doing politics. This is us looking into the budget, looking at the numbers, looking at the implications of what is in the budget, looking at the direction of things. See, I was here when Honorable Adongo was making the analysis with regards to what he projects the GDP to be, what he projects GDP growth, what he projects the trillion, whatever of GDP, and it doesn't work. It doesn't map. It's like it doesn't.
The numbers don't add up for you.
That's it. So it's like someone sits somewhere and cooks a figure and comes out there to dish it out to Ghanaians. And with the speaking and acclamation, then everybody will say, yeah, they're doing well. But please, you didn't go to school alone. Every other one, many other people went to school just as you did, okay? And I want to make a light statement on this. When you were saying he went to Harvard, you didn't go to Harvard, you didn't go to Oxford. Please, Oforiatta is not a representation of those properly educated abroad. He is actually a disappointment. And I wouldn't want you to even think that what he's doing is standard. It is not standard. With what he's doing, I'm telling you for free, many people who didn't do economics can handle, right? So we are in a very bad place, and it didn't give us what we were expecting. Look, I came here about 2 weeks ago to discuss expectations of the budget, i.e. the recommendations from the KPMG and UNDP research.
Yes.
That day I told you that this particular document represents the state of the economy by the people and what they expect to turn the economy around. Now, it is interesting to note that these people who may be ordinary businessmen, ordinary business managers, when I say ordinary, of course, they don't have a PhD in economics like Dr. Baumia, okay? They've been able to observe, and they are telling you these are the ways and means we expect the economy to turn around. What did they say? They said review the free SHS. The minister didn't mention anything on the free SHS. All they said is how much money they sank in the free SHS and how many people they enrolled onto the free SHS. But Senna, when you open the floodgates of free meals, don't you expect the entire community to move into your house? So if you are having a shot or a push in the numbers of youth going to university or going to secondary school because you are giving a free SHS. That is not an achievement to be patting yourself in the back. The general public said government should focus on reducing expenditure. What did we see? This year, 2023, budget deficit was 45 billion cedis. In the coming year, per the calculation, 176 against 226 billion. The gap is 50 billion. Now, that is already more in expenditure than last year. This is the first budget. By the media review, most often than not, from historical evidence, they will come and ask for more money. In asking for more money, it's an election year. In asking for more money, we are going to widen the gap even further. Okay, so expenditure, no commentary on expenditure. In fact, when he was speaking, he said they were going to be aggressive with revenue collection and they are going to rationalize their expenditure. Can you see those adjective or adjectival verbs?
The same
aggressive on revenue collection and rationalize. What is rationalize? What is rationalize? So if he thinks this is okay and this is important, there it goes. Okay, we can have it because we have rationalized it to be positive, to be important. They didn't do anything on the expenditure. Review of taxes. We were expecting a reduction or a scrap of the COVID-19. We were expecting
the sustainable growth or sustainable.
Thank you. All of that import. I think I heard the Guta talking about some component of import duty that needed to be scrapped.
I think the special import levy.
Yes. None of those important taxes were even mentioned. They were not. What did he give? Electric vehicles. Who uses electric vehicles in this country? When are we expecting the first public transport electric vehicle in this country for we to say that person is benefiting from a zero tariff? Nothing. Tax burden. Broadening the tax burden.
It means you are actually going to expand it and then increase it. I mean,
you see,
it's not a reduction, it's not a tax waiver.
Good. Talk of taxes. The business community have made a serious call on taxes to be reduced and all of that. What we expected when we saw the tax to GDP of Ghana, it's about 13%. And I think regionally, we are doing very poorly. 13% is very poor, regionally, comparatively. What do we expect? We expect, of course, this is just basic and common sense. We expect a reduction of the taxes and a widening of the net. Okay? Because what we say is that when there's a funeral at home, why we give quotas for people to pay is that when according to the song, is it boot, the big man in the family, when the entire budget of the funeral is put on one person, it becomes a heavy burden, the neck can sustain and you crash. However, when we give this funeral debt to everybody, you are paying 1,000 cedis. Before you realize, we've raised 20,000 cedis and nobody's neck is breaking. We are saying expand the tax base, get more people into the tax net. That means 30 million people. If the labor force is about 15 million people and everybody is paying a certain money, we will be able to raise huge sums of money to run the economy without necessarily breaking anybody's neck. The government didn't respond to that. So it's not anybody sitting somewhere and demonizing the government or trying to talk negative and talk down Oforiatta and what he's doing. This is what the public is saying. This is from KPMG and UNDP. This is not NDC. This is not CPP. This is not the opposition parties coming together to just bastardize. This is civil society. This is corporate Ghana telling you this is the way to manage the economy. And if we have a designated economist in this country in the name of Dr. Baumia, and we have Oforiatta, who did economics at Columbia. Columbia. Okay. I was analyzing his profile the other day, and I'm like, look, to get admission into Columbia is not a mean feat. I know those things.
He went to Yale, so
no, he did MBA in Yale. So he's a Yalean, he's a Columbia product. Now, to go to Columbia, do economics, and you have no recourse to these things UNDP and KPMG is suggesting. To be honest with you, we'll ask why. All the suggestions and recommendations they make in this document is very basic.
Are you sure these people are actually practicing what they've learned and what they know? or what they've even experienced. Are you sure that's what they're practicing?
We only task them to do what is right.
Yes, but they're not doing it.
That is why we are here to speak to them, speak to authorities for that change.
It's late.
It's not late. A lot of things can change. That is why Muhammad is coming back, and a lot going to change.
Maybe that's so. Now, it's a new world of doing business, and your business shouldn't be left out. It's time to get Momo for Business today to accept payment from over 15 million Momo customers. All you need is a business registration certificate and your Ghana card. Applying to be MTN Momo merchant has been made simple and fast. You just have to dial *5051# and follow the prompts, or apply online at momomerchantapplication.mtn.com.gh. You receive a reference number you can use to track your application. So don't get caught waiting. Enjoying transactions and convenient transactions for your business with MTN Momo today. Note that application is free. Do not pay any money to anyone for a merchant payment solution. Report any fraudulent charges using the Momo app available on Play Store and, of course, the App Store. Theophilus Adika says an empty budget is what you get when you have individuals in charge who lack vision. Ethnocentrism and religious bigotry is their stake. Albert, good morning.
Good morning, sir.
It's been quite a while.
Yes, I've done you.
It looks like the bread and butter issues are pushing you all fours.
Left, right, center.
Yeah.
My apologies.
Yes.
My apologies.
Okay, so first let's start with what you heard yesterday. I'm sure you listened attentively because you told me you were monitoring what was happening. You had to.
I did, and actually, I even went through, the entire presentation. Unfortunately, we don't have the actual budget yet, isn't it?
Yes.
Or you have it now?
What we have is I think is a 49 page or something.
That's the highlights, not the actual budget.
Yeah.
I think there are versions of the highlight because I have a 32 page.
You have a
okay.
32 page. I have a
49.
I have a 49.
Yeah, well, I also have the 32.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
but then so that's just the highlight. That's not the actual budget.
Okay.
So it's make the conversation a bit constrained. But then yet again, we deal with what is contained in there. And I think that the highlight everybody is getting away with is tax waiver kind of thing.
Yeah, the reliefs.
But reliefs. But in reality, it's only the sanitary part thing, right?
Yeah.
That is the waiver that they've given. That's the relief, the only relief they've given. The textile thing is already in existence. So they are just extending it. So if you are extending the status quo, how does that become a change in the status quo? It's not a relief.
I forgot to mention that.
The IV thing, is it the EV thing?
Yeah.
It's basically something that is already even existing. It comes with the regulations that's governing the new technology now, that you give a waiver for this. And then when you take it, to promote the use of
electric vehicles.
Automatic.
Yeah.
And then which one again? The agri thing.
Yes.
Who put the taxes on the agri equipment? And since when? So if you decided in your wisdom of planting for food and jobs that you are still going to tax the basic inputs and the machinery that the people are using for the same thing, how does that even tandem with the policy?
So you feel that the moment they were shouting planting for food and jobs,
you should make it very easier for people to be able to make
plan.
the policy successful, is that not it? And no wonder we are in this crisis, even in the presence of planting for food and jobs.
Those are the wheels.
Yes,
of the PFJ policy.
Okay.
You understand? So I don't really. I'm surprised that we are talking about removal of tax on importation of agriculture, because I thought they were not charged. They were not taxed.
Okay.
So it's very good for us to know when exactly they started taxing that.
Okay.
For them to now remove it for it to come.
Yeah.
Then beyond that, the rest are all expansions and not actual tax waivers. So I don't really see where the whole thing started from, that they've given a lot of tax waivers. I don't really see it. I don't get it. What is contained in the budget is not what we are hearing. Yes, of course. You can read it over again. I'm sure you've done that already. So it doesn't make
it's a futile effort.
Yes,
you won't find anything.
You won't find it.
Yeah.
You understand. Now then again, we came back to the conversation of what turning the corner and all that. Some figures were being mentioned.
Yeah.
Let's go back again exactly to the budget. the base pay is how much? Was increased by 23%. Is that not it?
Yes.
As we speak, inflation is at 35.2%. Is that not the case?
Strike it against it.
So you have a deficit already. You have a deficit of 12 point something percent. It means that before the Ghanaian worker even entered into 2024, they are 12% worse off in terms of value of their salary. That's the reality of the budget. I'm not quoting anything. I'm quoting from the budget. Is that
mind you, the inflation figure you are working with is going to actually up.
Yeah. And here's why. What was when the inflationary target was revised? It was revised to 18 point something percent for end of year. Is that not it? But as we speak, interest rate is already up there. The CD is already depreciating, and then the only thing that is supposed, or the things that are supposed to come and then cushion it or buffer it, are the syndicated loan and then the 600 million that they thought they were going to get
from the IMF. Yes,
but yet again, it's not going to come in any moment from now, probably next year, which means that the CD, together with the Christmas pressure, is going to experience more depreciation. What then it means is that the cost of goods and services is going to go up again, just on the surface of that. Then you look at the policy rate aspect of it. Recently, it was the same. It wasn't maintained. It means that, again, the interest rate is going to go up. What's then is that the cost of production and cost of doing business is going to go up again. Again, who takes the burden? The consumer. The price will be pushed over onto the consumer, which means that even the 35.2% inflation that we're seeing now, next year, that they made a target of how much? Again, the same 18, no?
Yeah.
It's not going to materialize, which means that the average Ghanaian or the average Ghanaian worker is already worse off before you enter into 2024 per the budget. I'm not quoting any figure from anywhere. I'm just quoting their own figure. That's the reality of it.
Okay.
Again, let's even look at the crisis at hand, the down spillage. Government is saying that they don't, at the moment, still don't have anything in the contingency fund. Remember, we had a conversation around that, and I stressed that we needed to restock the contingency fund in case something happened again. But from all the conversation they are having and from the budget, it means that they don't have any money anywhere to use unless the World Bank gave them that money. And even with that money, which is World Bank promised how much? Around 100 million.
Yes.
But in the budget, how much are they quoting? Is it 40 something?
They say they are doing 220 million.
220 million.
For relief.
For relief.
Yeah, but they haven't quoted anything for the World Bank.
Oh, okay.
Yes,
okay.
They haven't quoted anything from the World Bank.
Okay. So it means that we are relying on donor partners to actually help us. Other than that, we can't help ourselves. That's how or where our country actually is at the moment. So you see the reality of the budget. And then yet again, we're talking about another crisis that is looming, energy crisis. Apart from the negotiation with the IPPs, what did he mention any investments in energy?
No.
He actually said they have spent, is it 32 billion?
So he's just giving a historical data or figure of what they've already spent in terms of the energy sector. But
nothing new in terms of
nothing new
in terms of added is it
megawatts or anything. Are you getting it? Now you are faced with crisis, whether you like it or not. We've published the data, and you're already seeing the signs of it. That almost every day an area goes off, and then another one is all over the country. But yet again, and that's what is going to affect most businesses next year, if care is not taken and if urgent steps are not taken to mitigate the situation.
You see a power crisis next year?
Of course, but have forgotten we've already published the data. So the data doesn't lie, I told you. So basically, I'm really struggling to even to see what's good about this budget. Again, let's delve into the figures again. They're quoting 1 trillion economy growing and all that.
Expect the economy to expand to 1 trillion Ghana cedis.
First of all, let's not forget we recently rebased our economy, so it's not as if when we hear 1 trillion is the money that Ghana has. No. And an economy, even if it's 1 trillion, how much really are we owing as a country out of that 1 trillion? How many indigenous businesses or how many indigenous organizations or firms are contributing or parts of that GDP. So that's why, because we have very limited Ghanaians or very few Ghanaians contributing to that GDP that they're talking about, that's where you struggle or you are struggling to raise revenue. Which economy that grows or which grows to the extent of 1 trillion cannot raise enough revenue to sustain itself? That is not the correct distance. Then again, which economy that grows over 1 trillion but cannot produce enough jobs to cater for the teeming youth, that unemployment is going up by the day? Are you following the conversation? We are breaking down their own data. Is that not
so
it?
1 trillion should mean more jobs.
Which country have you heard that an economy that expanded to 1 trillion that cannot have produce enough?
So 1 trillion, you are raising. You are not ready to do 176 billion.
Yes.
Now, and if I just want to tell something. You see, there is an inherent conversation, or there is an inherent factor in that statement he made.
Of course.
GDP is the aggregate of the price of goods
and services
in services in every economy. Now, he made a statement that they were projecting that Ghana's economy by 2024 was going to hit the trillion mark from a 291 billion
in 2016
as inherited from Mahama. If GDP is designated in price, has he forgotten that the price levels we are experiencing now is contributing to that 1 trillion you are receiving?
So in
simple terms, telling us that the inflationary increase,
you are intentionally
price levels. Now, I find it problematic when economists, I'm not an economist, when economists use inflation to have the conversation with regards to how bad things are. Fine. For purposes of conversation, it's like using percentages. But those metrics, mathematical metrics, have inherent weaknesses that do not capture social behavior. All right? One, if you use inflation, the problem we have is not inflation. The problem we have is price levels. Nobody spends inflation. We don't spend in inflation. We spend to buy things at price levels. So when you say inflation is reducing and therefore you are doing well, inflation is the rate at which prices are increasing. It is not price levels coming down. And that is what the finance minister needs to understand, that the fact on the ground is that we are spending to buy things with regards to price. And so when prices are still there, and then you are telling me inflation is coming 5, and based on that you are patting yourself in the back and that you are doing well, that is a no-no. The 1 trillion projection we are having right now is because prices are at the historical high. In fact, they have become the frontliners of saying since independence. I can tell you the prices we are having now is since pre-independence and independence. This is the, of course we've experienced hyperinflation. So it is the hyperinflation that is giving us our GDP in the trillion levels. If he wants to do proper mathematics and comparison, what he has to do is to find Mahama's 291 billion against the dollar. Let's use the dollar mathematics as a metric and say what is the value of that economy in dollars,
and then the value of
with the prevailing exchange rate. Then we know, okay, that is how much it is, because in this case another ceteris paribus holding the fact that the dollar didn't change over the period, in terms of the dollar's own appreciation depreciation thing, right? Then today use exchange rate today against the 1 trillion they are projecting and find its value in the dollar and make the comparison with the dollar as a benchmark. But what he's saying that we are expecting a 1 billion, a 1 trillion, whatever, he's actually telling us how bad they have performed with regards to price, because GDP is designated or denominated in prices on the market. So if you have jumped from 291 to 1 trillion in how many years? 7 years. And that economy is struggling the way we are struggling. My friend, you shouldn't be
You're not
proud of
able
yourself.
to pay your debtors. So you see, what he's saying is that, and in a perfect economy, like in a perfect market, for instance, once the price corrects itself, then it means that the GDP will now revert back to its normal price level. But unfortunately, Ghana's economy is not operating in a perfect market, which means that, you see, once initially last year, they keep talking about pass-through effect of inflation and all that. And I keep reiterating the point that what we are seeing is not going to be a pass-through effect. It will become a permanent effect. Because in Ghana, once the prices reach this level, it doesn't come down.
It stays there.
It stays there, and then we build out from there. Are you getting it? So
you may get some stability.
Yes, but it coming back to the original level at which the prices were before is not going to happen. So they talk about pass-through effects is no longer, tenable. So that's why we see, the from 500 and I think 80 billion or so in 2022. Yes, I think 2022 was 5 billion in terms of the GDP.
Yeah.
Then 2023 and then going to 2024 is jumping
to 800 billion. That's a significant.
Yeah. So because
you are saying it's because of the inflationary prices.
This price levels.
You see, GDP is measured in. That's why I said is that
so our suffering is increasing the
economic
GDP.
activities.
Yes, value, money.
So all the economic activities is exchange of goods and services. Is that
Price.
not? So the price and goods and services are exchanged in prices.
Okay.
Yes. So once you are measuring the GDP of Ghana, for instance, you have to measure it in terms of the price of the goods and services that have been traded within the fiscal year, within the country.
And look at price levels.
You see, so look at where the price level is. So that's why. So it looks like then they are happy that inflation is there and then pushing.
Yeah, because
the GDP,
if he's saying
but it's
that,
artificial.
If
It's
he's saying that, then we're going to do 1 trillion. If we are measuring prices, then it's projecting further inflation.
Yes,
That's
of
what
course.
we're saying.
Further increases in price.
Yes.
And it also tells you the migration from Mohammed's 291 billion to 1 trillion. The inherent factor there is inflation and price levels. It's not because the economy has become very buoyant and we are doing so. That is why my brother Albert is saying, which kind of economy expecting 1 trillion
and
pay its debt, can't do this, can't. What kind of economy is it?
It doesn't happen anywhere.
It's the price levels. And instead of price levels making them sober,
they are not trying to
They're
applauding themselves. That is how
doesn't really
ridiculous
make
it is.
any sense. You see, so Senna, look, if I want to digest this, but in all the statements one by one, look, people will think that we are playing the devil's advocate again and then predicting doom, but that is not it. I don't really see anything positive about this that is going to turn the economy around in 2024. No. Even look at your deficit that you're planning to run in 2024, for instance. Don't forget, you already pushed a lot of debt into 2024, going to 2025.
Yes.
Which you then have to start servicing. And then you are saying that you are now going to accumulate at least 50 billion of additional debt. You don't have the money there. And there's no guarantee that even the revenue you projected, you're going to achieve it 100%. So the baseline or the minimum that the deficit you can do is around 51 billion. And that is going to add to your already high debt level. I mean, who runs an economy like that? That you are in crisis, you are in debt crisis, and you are still piling on more debt. Meanwhile, the IMF is telling you that you should have zero net, debt. You should accumulate zero net debt. So the point is, if you are not able to pay more than what you are accumulating within that period, it means you are already breaking some of the conditionalities of the IMF program.
But there's a lot of chest beating when it comes to IMF and meeting conditionality.
Which is it? Even that external debt exchange, you couldn't finish with it. How much more? And look at you targeted 18% inflationary end of year inflationary target. You are doing 35%. What shows that you were going to achieve that? Looking at revenue is still underperforming. Tax revenue is still underperforming. Then which one? The only thing that you can tout a little bit is that is they're able to contain expenditure a little bit. There's not too much overrun when it comes to expenditure, at least up to date what they are doing. So beyond that, I don't really see what exactly they are touting as an achievement when it comes to this. But in any way, since when, or in any case, since when has the IMF program become a good thing that has to be touted?
And this is
according to them. According to them,
this is the 17th IMF.
These same people less than a year and a half ago are still saying what the consequences of going to IMF are dire.
And now
so what happened?
This
it's no longer
dire for it.
Yes,
in the fastest time possible.
Which is not
you can't imagine what
anyway.
These people are.
So Sana, you see, so I'm waiting to see the hidden figures within the appropriation itself. But going through the statement, I've actually gone through from page to page. I don't really see. They're just using the same, rhetoric, sophism to bamboozle the people, like we've done with the tax thing. I won't call it tax waivers. Beyond the sanitary part thing, the rest are not tax waivers. In all reality of it.
This is Michael Faith Adiko. He has some questions on this. Says the tax exemption on sanitary pads on the locally produced. I want to ask how many pads are locally produced here in Ghana. 2, the tax exemption on electric cars. How many electric cars do we have in Ghana? And is the finance minister aware that we still have some parts of the country without light? These guys thinks they are smart. In fact, these are some questions that we are trying to address today. In fact, we have to take a break.
Yes.
There's Frank Blejuma Ajiman who says, good, the tax exemption on so-called electric cars and public transport is targeted to get climate change funding available in some financial institutions, as David was indicating. By next year, you see them applying for such funds. These people don't come with such attention without a target. That's coming from him. There's Samson Bebe who says, but the finance minister and the MPP government have nothing to offer Ghanaians and they must be thrown out of power. But he says we're having a good decision, enjoying the discussion we're having on this issue. Back to Albert and David, of course. Well, David, you first.
Okay.
On the matter, because if you think about it, a lot of it then goes back to the issue of expenditure that we are talking about.
Yeah.
Yes, and otherwise, Ikadugo was saying everything is done. Like he said, they were virtually cooking figures to favor spending money.
Yes, of course.
The government hasn't been very restrained when it comes to expenses, and very defiantly so. And they really don't care about the people of Ghana.
Okay.
Before I come to the expenditure, when I mentioned that the budget lacked the kind of financial engineering that will guarantee sustainable solutions to the problem, I'll touch on tax briefly before I go to the expenditure behavior.
Okay.
We were expecting, aside the removal of those taxes we listed earlier, we were expecting that, as I said, with the funeral contribution in our homes and our families, we should widen the tax net. Okay? But there was no mention of, no strategy as to how to capture the informal sector. So as it is now, like the family setting, the few rich men in the family, i.e. the formal sector, the teachers, the nurses, the doctors, the bankers, we are much fewer when you compare to the rest of the population. Now, you burden the fewer group within the country, left the informal sector, which is huge, and there is no strategy as to how to loop in this informal sector to help with regards to revenue collection. Taxes, the net widened as far as it got to what? Emissions and plastics. And that I felt was very, very insufficient, and we missed the point with regards to getting clear-cut strategy as to how to loop in the informal sector. But Sena, what is interesting to note, and I think it's basic when it comes to budget conversations, is that no wasteful government can balance its budget.
No wasteful government.
No wasteful government can balance its budget, irrespective of how much cash receipts you get, because this government is on record, historically, as they say, since independence, this government is the government that has had the highest cash receipts. Yet, see where we are. And the reason is because of what? Lack of discipline with regards to what they do in government, i.e. government business. Number one, and I'm going to give you about 16 points, okay? 16 actions and inactions that this government has done right from 2017 up till tomorrow that is costing the people of Ghana, that is burdening us, and they are stubbornly prosecuting that agenda.
I have about 10 minutes, so you have to be...
Whoa. Unfortunate. I have so much today, but it's fine. 600 million on PFJ. Okay? This government has spent 600 million on planting for food and jobs. Today, food inflation is 44%.
Okay.
It has dropped to 44%. We don't know where it came from.
Okay.
3 billion on NAPCO.
Okay.
You gathered 100,000 youth and gave them a job one day. Which company does that? Okay. We have large convoy, presidential convoy, and private jet. 126 ministers and presidential staffers. The government spent 1 billion plus for the creation of 6 more regions.
Okay.
Look at free SHS. How much money we are sinking into free SHS because it is a policy that was poorly thought through and improperly executed.
Okay.
Free SHS Secretariat. All the people over there are taking money. When we have Ministry of Education.
Yeah.
1D1F Secretariat. When we have what? Ministry of Trade. Over $10 million US spent on project audit. When Mahama left and then they came to do project audit, we spent $10 million just to do project audit. What again? Banking sector cleanup. I'm listing for listeners and viewers very quickly how much money has been wasted, and they continue to do. We spent 31 billion counting, okay, to clean a banking sector that has a debt of 9 billion. Cocoa sector, millions plus for Galamsey site. How much did we not spend on Galamsey? What dividends are we making on Galamsey so far? Right? Looting and sharing of COVID funds. The COVID accounting has gone down the drain. We haven't seen anything. We borrowed money to build Judge's house only for it to get demolished in the name of a cathedral that never saw the light of day. Tax waivers on foreign direct investments. All these are losses. Tax waivers. We give tax waivers to these foreign direct investors. They come, run around for like 3, 4, 5 years. Just when the time is due for them to start paying, what happens? They run away, or they sell, or they change hands, and the whole cycle goes again. Why aren't we re-engineering the whole thing? Instead, you can create a conducive business environment by looking and properly engineering your factors of production. Okay, look at sustainable labor force, power, water, road access. Make those things very interesting for businesses and investors, and you don't have to give tax breaks anymore. And all these things have affected us so much. Look, the Galamsey fight, we've spent so much money, but it is very disappointing to hear my good friend Asante Hene even give up on Galamsey.
He's your good friend?
He's my good friend.
I didn't know.
Yeah, he's my good friend. I like him.
Yeah.
Okay, he's given up on Galamsey fight. And if Asante Hene, among the account speaking people, the Ashantis, if Asante Hene say this fight cannot be won, we've lost it. My friend, how much money have we spent in this area? Look, the list is long. I'm going to finish off by saying we spent millions of dollars in Galamsey fight. We haven't seen anything. Look at projects that have been abandoned. It is all money loss. If we are going to go back, the E-blocks, the cocoa roads, the Saglemi, the hospitals in Ashanti region, all of it is money that is lost. We spent $3 billion for public account committee and audit losses since 2017. $3 billion. How much is IMF giving us for all these conditionalities and prepping and preparing our windows to suit IMF? 3 billion. Between 2017 and today, as we speak, audit losses, excesses on accounts, okay, monies that are unaccounted for, we can't place it anywhere. 3 billion. This is the wastefulness we are talking about. Ghana is a very small country. Elsewhere, they are projecting that we should be able to run this country with just about 25 ministers. We have 126 ministers. And you are telling me you want to balance your budget. You cannot. So we haven't seen any discipline with regards to expenditures. Cash receipts, i.e. taxation, everything is all we are looking up to. Look, this country doesn't look good if we are running like this. And the earlier we redeem this country from Oforiata, Baumia, and Nanado, the better for all of us.
And Albert was showing me a flyer, please. We shouldn't read something in the budget and go and do some other flyer to confuse people.
That's actually what they are doing.
What is your problem? You said we're going to give waivers for electric vehicles imported for public transportation purposes only. Now you're going to arrive it. When that was not in the budget, they
realized they missed it.
Oh, no.
So that's what somebody
said to Parliament.
Yeah, that's what somebody said. The budget was fully prepared.
Yeah.
And, you know.
And it looks like even if you pick this summary, you realize that because they said they've withdrawn this summary.
The
one you have.
So they are withdrawing.
They withdrawn the original summary.
So they will have the conversation.
Yeah. So they withdrew some.
I see.
But they still have it on their website.
No, there are those who have attempted to download it. They are not able to.
Since when? This morning?
No, yesterday.
No,
you downloaded the same thing.
Yeah, the same.
Because
and it's still there. Even after down, it's still there.
Yeah.
You know, so like my senior was saying, look, if you look at this government, let's go back to the budget again. Imports cover. As we speak, it was 1.8 months of import cover, right? But what are they projecting now?
It's 0.8.
0.8 now. Oh, okay. Of import cover, and they are projecting that it's going to be 1.7 months of import cover.
That's one.
It means that so what happens if demand has exceeded 1 month or 1.7? So every indicator that they are pointing or they are projecting, even look at your economy as you speak, you are touting a growth of 3.2 as you speak. That despite everything you are growing, yet in your 2024 projection you are reducing it back to 2.8.
Yeah.
Right. So you are telling everybody, like he's saying, like subtly, that next year things are not going to be rosy like this year. When I say rosy, it means that if you are having difficulty this year,
it will be worse.
It means that next year is going to be worse than this year. It's as simple as that. Because everything he was just using words and then what is even the name, rhetorics to confuse people as to what exactly is containing it. But from all the breakdown we've done so far, from every breakdown, it means that our economy is still not headed, and it's not heading in the right direction. Because if it's heading in the right direction, then every indicator that they are projecting should be, positive, heading towards the positive. And even look at the budget deficit. That's the initial scenario before they went to the IMF, and even before they started the domestic debt exchange. If you remember, if we agreed, or even everybody agreed, that they had to do zero deficit for the next 5 years.
Yeah.
In order for us to achieve that level, the 56% debt or 55% debt level that they were talking about. But just see what they are still projecting.
The solution is
the solution. It does it. It's as simple as that. Expenditure discipline.
That's the solution.
There's no other way.
There's no other way. But
because it seems that
how many times will I use the same example here? That you don't have money, you go and borrow money, you go and then spend it on chichinga and beer, and then at the end of the day, you turn around and then ask your children to tighten their bets, and then the small money they are able to save down, you take it away from them by force. Then yet again, you refuse every day. When you close from West, you still go and pass the base
and continue drinking and then
drink your beer and then chew the chichinga. How would your household economy improve? You see the scenario? Yes.
So there's no other way. Because
there's
that is the issue. Because and I also looking at the projection, higher revenue.
Yes.
That is what they are projecting to raise more.
Yes.
Even
But
when
if you are raising
11
more,
billion more in taxes.
yes, if you are raising more, you are again projecting to even spend more than what you are even raising.
And
Look
it
at
is
the growth in
counterproductive
this,
because
it's
if you are
counterproductive.
using taxes as a way of lifting your country up, I told you the other day what Winston Churchill said. It's like sitting in a bucket and using the handle to lift yourself. So it's counterproductive. You don't gain any mileage.
You see what they don't know, or they know but they're pretending, is that look, for you to want to achieve that level of taxation, like other, you need to grow, you need to develop the country or the economy to that level that everybody, or at least the majority, are well off. Then you cannot turn around and then be taxing them, because you know that even if you tax them, what is left for them will still be enough to, for them to live comfortably. But if you see what other countries are doing, because they've already even reached that level of development, and say that, oh, these people are even 50% taxation, 30% taxation, so you change that, you also have to tax your own citizens who already you've stolen money from through the DDP and then what have you. And then inflation and what have you, and then still want to continue piling more taxes on them. Then you turn around and deceive them with some words, just one tax relief, and then you say you've granted 7 or 8 or whatever tax relief. I mean,
Albert,
dishonesty with
thank
these
you. I
people
have to thank you, gentlemen. I have lawyer in studio. Lawyer has to deal with this.
Just one thing. I just wanted to direct our listeners and viewers that Bright Simons wrote an article I would like them to read just for the purposes of this conversation. It is titled "Ghana Dances with Austerity as the IMF Cheers On." It is a very, very instructive document, and I would like people who care to look into that document.